They said Filipino culture didn't belong on that stage, until 5 minutes changed everyone's mind. This story happened at one of the biggest international talent competitions in Europe. 20 countries were represented. Each country sent their best performers to showcase their culture through music, dance, and art. The venue was packed. Thousands of people in the audience, cameras everywhere, judges sitting at the front with serious faces. This wasn't just any show. This was the kind of event that could change careers, that could make performers famous overnight. The performances had been incredible so far. India presented a Bollywood dance number with bright costumes and synchronized moves that made the crowd go wild. Mexico brought mariachi music and folklore dancing that had everyone clapping. Japan showed a modern fusion of traditional taiko drums with electronic beats. Korea performed a K-pop-inspired routine with laser lights and perfect choreography. Brazil brought samba dancers with feathers and energy that shook the whole theater. Every performance got standing ovations. Every act got loud cheers. Every country felt celebrated. Except one, the Philippines. The Filipino group stood backstage waiting for their turn. There were 8 of them, young performers in their 20s. They wore simple, traditional costumes, barong Tagalog for the men, terno dresses for the women. Nothing flashy, nothing covered in sequins or LED lights. They carried traditional instruments, bamboo poles, kulindang gongs, a wooden guitar, shells and percussion instruments made from natural materials. They had practiced for months. They had poured their hearts into this. They wanted to show the world the beauty of Filipino culture. But as they waited backstage, they could hear the whispers. The stage manager walked past and said to another crew member, "I don't know why they're even here. Their act is so outdated." A production assistant laughed and said, "Yeah, who wants to see bamboo dancing in 2025? That's ancient." One of the judges during a commercial break was overheard saying, "I hope this next one is quick. I'm ready to go home." The Filipino performers heard everything. Their smiles faded. Their confidence started cracking. The team leader, a woman named Maria, tried to encourage them. "Don't listen to them. We belong here. Our culture is beautiful." But even she looked nervous. Then their name was called. "Next up, representing the Philippines!" The audience clapped politely, but it was weak, tired, like they were just being nice. Some people in the audience were already checking their phones. Some were getting up to go to the bathroom. Some were talking to each other, not even paying attention. One audience member said to his friend, "Philippines? What are they going to do, sing karaoke?" His friend laughed. "Probably some old folk dance nobody cares about." A woman in the front row yawned and said to her husband, "How many more acts are left? I'm getting bored." The judges looked uninterested. One judge was scrolling on her phone. Another was drinking coffee and looking at his notes. The third judge, an older man with gray hair, just stared at the stage with a blank expression. The Filipino group walked onto the stage. The lights dimmed. The music started. It was soft at first. The sound of bamboo tapping gently, the kulintang gongs creating a peaceful melody, a single voice humming a traditional song. But the audience wasn't listening. People kept talking. The judge on her phone didn't even look up. Someone in the back row stood up and left. A camera operator yawned. The performers saw this. They saw people ignoring them. They saw the disrespect. But they kept going. The bamboo poles started moving faster. The rhythm picked up. The dancers began performing tinikling, the traditional Philippine folk dance where they jumped between bamboo poles that clapped together. It was technical, it was difficult. One wrong step and their feet could get caught. But they moved perfectly, gracefully, in sync. Still, the audience barely reacted. One judge shook his head and whispered to another judge, "This is too simple. Where's the excitement?" The other judge shrugged. "I don't get it. What's the story here?" A photographer in the media section said to his partner, "Should we even take pictures of this? Nobody's gonna care." The performers could feel it. The rejection, the dismissal, the lack of appreciation. Maria, the team leader dancing in the center, felt tears forming in her eyes. But she kept smiling. She kept dancing. She refused to give up. One of the judges, the older man with gray hair, suddenly put down his pen. He sat up straighter in his chair. He leaned forward. He was watching, really watching. His name was Anton. He was a legendary choreographer from Germany. He had worked with famous artists. He had traveled the world. He had seen thousands of performances. And something about this one made him stop everything. While everyone else was distracted, Anton saw what others missed. He saw the precision, every step perfectly timed, every movement synchronized without a single mistake. He saw the athleticism, the dancers jumping between bamboo poles, moving at an incredible speed, never once getting hit. He saw the storytelling, the way the dance showed Filipino history, the connection to nature, the respect for tradition. He saw the emotion, the pride in their eyes, the determination to represent their culture even when no one was watching. And most importantly, he saw something rare, something authentic, something real. While the other two judges were bored, Anton became fascinated. The performance continued. The music got louder, the bamboo poles moved faster, the dancers added more complex patterns, and Anton couldn't look away. Suddenly, he did something unexpected. He stood up, right in the middle of the performance. The other judges looked at him, confused. The audience members nearby turned to see what was happening. Anton started clapping, loud, rhythmic, in time with the bamboo poles. People stared. Some looked annoyed. Some looked confused. One judge whispered, "Anton, what are you doing? Sit down." But Anton ignored them. He kept clapping, louder. And then he shouted, "Everyone, watch this." The audience went silent. Heads turned. Conversation stopped. Anton pointed at the stage and said again, "Stop what you're doing and watch this." People didn't know how to react. Was he angry? Was he joking? But Anton's face was serious, passionate, almost desperate. He said loudly, "Do you see what they're doing? Do you see the skill, the precision, the beauty? Look at them." Now everyone was watching, not the stage, but Anton. The other judges looked embarrassed. One tried to pull him back to his seat. "Anton, please, this is unprofessional." But Anton refused. He turned to the audience and said, "You've been ignoring this performance. You've been disrespecting these artists, and you have no idea what you're missing." The audience members looked at each other uncomfortably. Some felt guilty. Some felt defensive. Anton continued, his voice getting emotional. "I've been judging performances for 30 years. I've seen everything. Broadway shows, Olympic ceremonies, world tours. And right now what's happening on the stage is one of the most technically difficult things I've ever witnessed." People started actually looking at the stage now. The Filipino performers were still dancing, still jumping between the bamboo poles. But now, with everyone watching, the audience finally saw what Anton saw. The speed, the danger, the absolute precision required. One wrong move and their ankles would be crushed between the poles. But they never missed. Not once. Anton kept talking. "Do you know how much training this takes? Do you know how much discipline? Most dancers can't do this. Most performers would be terrified to even try." The audience started murmuring. People were sitting up in their seats now. Phones were being put away. One audience member said, "Oh my God, I didn't realize how fast those poles were moving." Another said, "Wait, are they doing this without any safety equipment?" A woman gasped and said, "How are they not getting hurt?" Anton turned back to the stage and started clapping again. Come on, they deserve better than silence. And slowly, others joined. One person started clapping, then 5 people, then 20, then 50. Within seconds, the entire audience was clapping, loudly, enthusiastically. The Filipino performers noticed the change. Their eyes widened. Their smiles became real. Maria, the team leader, felt tears streaming down her face, but this time, they were tears of joy. The performance reached its climax. The bamboo poles were moving at incredible speed now. The dancers were jumping in and out in complex patterns that seemed impossible. The audience was on their feet. Some were gasping, some were cheering, some were filming with their phones. Someone yelled, "How are they doing that?" Another person screamed, "This is amazing!" A teenager shouted, "This is better than anything we've seen all night!" The judges who had been ignoring the performance were now completely focused, mouths open, eyes wide. The female judge who had been on her phone put it down and said, I had no idea." The other judge, who had been drinking coffee, just stared in shock and said, "This is incredible!" Anton looked at them and said, "Now do you see?" The performance ended with a final dramatic pose. All 8 dancers perfectly synchronized, the bamboo poles creating one last thunderous clap. Silence. Just for a moment. And then the audience exploded. Cheering, screaming, whistling, a standing ovation that shook the theater. People were jumping up and down, clapping so hard their hands hurt. Some were crying. The Filipino performers stood on stage completely overwhelmed. They had gone from being ignored to being celebrated in just 5 minutes. Maria covered her face with her hands and sobbed. The other judges stood up and joined the standing ovation. The female judge was wiping tears from her eyes. She said to Anton, Thank you for making us pay attention." Anton nodded and said, "That's what a real judge does. We don't just watch, we see." The applause continued for what felt like forever. 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. The production crew who had mocked them earlier stood backstage in silence. The stage manager, who called their act outdated, looked ashamed. The audience members who had left during their performance rushed back in asking, "What did we miss? Why is everyone going crazy?" People started posting on social media immediately. "Just saw the most incredible performance of my life. Filipino traditional dance. Unreal. I almost didn't watch this. Thank God the judge made us pay attention." Forget everything else. The Philippines just won this entire competition. When the performers finally left the stage, they were surrounded by people. Photographers, reporters, other performers. Everyone wanted to talk to them. A Brazilian dancer hugged Maria and said, "That was beautiful. I'm so sorry we didn't watch it first." The Japanese performers bowed deeply and said, "We have so much respect for you. That was perfection." Even the competitors who had dismissed them earlier came to apologize. One performer said, "I judged too quickly. Your culture is incredible." The judges called the Filipino group back for an interview. Anton spoke first. His voice was still emotional. "I need to say something. To everyone watching at home, to everyone in this audience, we almost missed this. We almost let our biases and our ignorance rob us of witnessing something extraordinary." He turned to the Filipino performers. "Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for continuing even when we didn't deserve your effort." The female judge spoke next. "I was on my phone.
I was distracted, I was disrespectful, and I'm ashamed. This performance reminded me why I became a judge. To discover beauty, to celebrate art, to recognize talent even when it doesn't look like what I expected. The third judge said, I thought I knew what good performance looked like, but you taught me something tonight. Excellence doesn't always come with lights and technology. Sometimes it comes from tradition, from discipline, from heart. Maria, representing the Filipino group, spoke through tears. We came here afraid. We knew people didn't know about our culture. We knew they might not understand, but we also knew our culture was worth sharing. Thank you for giving us a chance, even if it took a little push. She looked at Anton and said, Thank you for seeing us when no one else would. Anton smiled and said, I didn't do anything. You did all the work. I just made sure people didn't miss it. The results were announced later that night. When the judges' scores were revealed, the Filipino group received perfect marks from all three judges, a rare occurrence, almost unheard of.
Anton gave them a 10 and said, for technical excellence, for cultural authenticity, for courage. The female judge gave them a 10 and said, for reminding me what real art looks like. The third judge gave them a 10 and said, for teaching me not to judge before I truly see. The audience vote came next, and it wasn't even close. The Philippines received more votes than any other country by a massive margin. They won the entire competition. When their name was announced as the winner, the 8 performers collapsed on stage in tears. They hugged each other. They cried. They couldn't believe it. The crowd chanted, Philippines, Philippines, Philippines. Other performers lifted them on their shoulders. Cameras flashed everywhere. Confetti fell from the ceiling. Maria held the trophy and said into the microphone, This isn't just for us. This is for every Filipino who was told their culture wasn't good enough, who was told to be more like everyone else, who was made to feel small. You are not small. You are worthy. You are beautiful. The audience roared with approval. After the show, reporters asked Anton why he stood up, why he made such a scene, why he risked looking unprofessional. Anton said, Because I've learned something in my 30 years in this industry. The best art is often the most overlooked. The most powerful performances are often the most underestimated. And if we don't stand up for what's real, what's authentic, what's excellent, then we fail as judges. We fail as audience members. We fail as human beings. He continued, I don't want to live in a world where something that beautiful almost goes unnoticed, where talent is ignored because it doesn't fit our narrow expectations. I stood up because someone had to, and I'm glad I did. The Filipino performance went viral. Videos were shared millions of times. News outlets covered the story. The performance everyone almost missed became a headline around the world. Suddenly, people wanted to learn about Filipino culture, about tinikling, about traditional music, about the history behind the dance. Schools started teaching it. Dance companies wanted to collaborate. Cultural centers invited the group to perform. The 8 Filipino performers went from being unknown and ignored to being celebrated internationally. But more than that, they opened a door. They showed the world that Filipino culture deserved respect, deserved attention, deserved celebration. All because one judge refused to let excellence be ignored. All because one person stood up and said, look, really look. And that's the lesson. Excellence doesn't always announce itself with bright lights and loud music. Sometimes it comes quietly, humbly, traditionally. And it's our job to pay attention, to really see, to give chances to things we don't immediately understand. Because the most beautiful moments in life are the ones we almost missed. The greatest performances are the ones we almost walked away from. And the most powerful stories are the ones that started with someone saying, "Wait, stop, you need to see this." One judge, one moment of courage, one refusal to let greatness go unnoticed. That's all it took to change everything.